This is Stray Thoughts. We review new movies.
We're going to be reviewing most of the movies we see. Hopefully, a review every week to 2 weeks, if we're lucky.
God, I have to see a lot of movies.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of movies. The first episode is going to be The Hobbit. We just saw it earlier tonight. One of the rules we have is we don't talk about the movie at all until we're in front of the camera and recording.
It's a good thing to bring up, yeah.
So you are getting our genuine discussions and our genuine reactions.
Yeah, and it's really hard sometimes. Like, we went with a bunch of people and they were all talking about it and we couldn't jump in. So know that we're sacrificing for you.
Yeah, big sacrifice. So this is it. This is The Hobbit. Alright, so we just got back from The Hobbit. What did you think of it?
Overall, I thought it was pretty good. I have a few minor complaints, but you know.
Yeah, pretty much same here.
Yeah. I went in, trying not to have any sort of expectation as much as I could.
Yeah.
Try not to compare it to Lord of the Rings. But it's kind of hard.
It's impossible not to compare it to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it is a part of the series, really.
Yeah.
Especially with all the stuff added from the appendices and everything.
Yeah, and they did a good job of showing it as a prequel. Like, you saw Frodo at the beginning, and
yeah,
it was like the day of the birthday.
Yeah.
And Bilbo starts telling the story.
I felt like going back to how the movie felt, though, it had a much more child-friendly feel to it, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Where there was a lot more adventure than there was intrigue.
Yeah, exactly. And there were certain points, there was comic relief that worked, but then there was times where it felt goofy. And there were a few moments in the movie where there was that comic relief, they just kind of forced it in there. But then there was also parts like Riddle is in the dark when Gollum's talking to himself, and there's the few
But I didn't find the comedy in Riddles in the Dark took away from how tense it felt.
That's what I mean.
It was a really good scene.
That felt like it was part of the scene.
In terms of pacing, I thought it was going to be really slow.
But it wasn't.
It actually moved really fast.
It did. At times it even felt a little rushed.
They were trying to pack a lot into the
when they were climbing through the mountains. And it's just that scene with the giants.
Yeah, I think they covered most of The Hobbit in this movie.
Exactly.
Yeah, I actually really liked how we don't really see Smaug.
Yeah, they
Smaug.
never show you a full shot of him.
Even in the very beginning when they're showing the destruction of Dale, you don't even see him.
Yeah, you see glimpses of his tail or his foot or whatever.
Yeah.
But you never get up. Because they're saving it, and it's awesome, because that's what it felt like in the books.
The fighting scenes were fantastic.
Dude, the dwarven way of fighting, I love how it's different than what the elves do, and what you saw the men do and shit like that.
I love how much teamwork there was.
Yeah, exactly.
You really get the sense that these guys were a team before this adventure.
Yeah, and they did that even in the first scene you see them, when they're doing the dishes thing, and they're just bouncing them off each other, and it's just these guys are a well-oiled machine.
Yeah. The battles, I really like the battles because, I should say the fights, because the original trilogy had battles of thousands of soldiers fighting against each other. This one was a much smaller fight scenes with just the dwarves and a couple of enemies, or, in the Goblin City there's an army of them.
The thing I liked
you get to see a lot more of the action, it's a lot flashier and high flying.
The thing I liked about it though is that the majority of these dwarves aren't fighters, and they even mention that in the movie, how they're miners and craftsmen or whatever.
Yeah.
So when they're faced against a group of wargs and some orcs, it is still a challenge. Whereas when you saw Legolas and Aragorn and everything fighting orcs, they just walk through them like nothing. Right?
These guys, Pelennor Fields in Return of the King, when they literally carve a hole through the armor.
Right. These guys aren't fighters, right?
Yeah.
So 90% of the time, they're actually just running.
The fight scene in the Goblin City, not really spoilers because it's all in the book. This was really where their teamwork started showing, but you had to watch closely to see it. You'll see they're all tossing each other weapons. And
bouncing off of each other and stuff like that.
And you finally get to see Gandalf do some real magic. And he's not chucking fireballs or anything. He's doing like utility spells, but he uses them in ways that helps the fight.
One scene I want to talk about in particular, Riddles in the Dark. Honestly, one of my favorite chapters in any book of all time, and they did it such justice in the movie. Like
probably the best scene in the movie too.
It's so good.
Yeah, and it was different too. It wasn't the exact same as the book.
I mean, they used all the same riddles, which I thought was a nice touch.
Yep.
But I mean, like, they made it interesting, made it different, and like.
And they brought in Gollum's split personalities, which wasn't originally in The Hobbit.
But it works in these movies. They've like made this premise that he is a split personality.
Yeah.
And so in the movie, it totally flew.
Martin Freeman, Ian McKellen, easily some of the greatest actors I've ever seen in any movie.
McKellen, it was amazing in this movie. Like, fucking Gandalf actually, like, being part of the group and doing stuff.
Yeah, we finally get to see him take some action, which we didn't get to see in the original.
Speaking of wizards, Saruman makes an appearance.
Yep.
And I thought they did a good job of showing that he wasn't evil per se at the time, but you could tell he was already starting to, like, question...
Yeah,
and,
he
like,
doesn't really agree with the other wizards, obviously.
Radagast was really well done, I thought. It was a little goofy at times, but I think that's just Radagast's personality.
Yeah.
Like,
and again, the movie was made to be a little bit more child-friendly.
Yeah, for sure.
Which I have no complaints about at all.
Again, that scene with the trolls when, in the book, when Bilbo's, like, convincing them, or trying to draw them out so that the sun comes up, I thought they did that pretty well.
Yeah.
It felt a little rushed. But I mean, how long do you want to hear people talking about ways to cook dwarves, really?
Yeah, because in the movie it implies that he has to keep going for a couple hours. Or in the book.
Yeah.
Did I say the book?
Yeah.
Yeah, it implies that he keeps going for a couple hours.
Exactly.
In this one it's a couple minutes. And then Gandalf shows up and fixes the problem, which he does a lot.
Yeah.
My one major complaint about the movie, Gandalf shows up and fixes the problem. A lot.
Yeah, it's like the whole, like, Jesus solution. He just comes in and he's like, okay, here we go, fixed. That's one thing I know a lot of people are going to bring up again, is the fact that why don't they just ride the Eagles all the way to the Misty Mountains?
Just tell the camera.
Okay, let's put it this way. The Eagles are a race, okay? They're not just mindless animals, for one. When you're having a race come to your aid, they're not going to be able to just be your horses all the way into wherever you're going, for one. For two, let's go back to Lord of the Rings for a second. There's no way those eagles were going to be able to fly into Mordor. Okay? It's made very clear that they had to sneak into Mordor because the Eye of Sauron is ever watchful.
They came to Gandalf's aid because Gandalf is obviously friends with them.
Exactly. The other thing that they don't really show that in the movie, which kind of bothered me a little bit, but I mean, it's hard to, like, show talking animals without it seeming goofy, I guess.
Yeah.
But, like, the eagles are a race, and so are the wargs. The wargs are actually fairly intelligent.
Yeah. And
they don't really show it that well. They do an okay job with that one white one that's, like, the Defiler's, like, mount.
Yeah.
The rabbit sled...
Little bit silly.
Little silly. But I mean, it was kind of funny, I guess. And
it was kind of funny when it first shows up.
Yeah.
When he's running away from the necromancer.
Yeah,
though. Kind of took away from it a little bit because the rabbits.
Yeah.
It did kind of work when he was running away from the wargs.
Yeah, because he made that one line where he's just like, "These are rabbits of." Wherever. Insert place here.
I like to see them try
and catch me, and he just takes off.
Yeah.
That worked. And then you never hear from him again after that. He just kind of disappears. That's the other thing I loved about this movie. The weapons had their own stories, which is one thing in Lord of the Rings that I didn't see as much. Like, you saw it with that one blade. Aragorn's blade. Yeah, Andor. Yeah. But I mean, they don't really, like, show it as...
They don't go back and show... Well, no, I guess, because the flashback at the beginning of the first movie technically shows you the history of Andoril.
Yeah.
They just don't touch on it again when Aragorn gets it.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas this one, you see, like, when the blade hits the ground in the Goblin City... and it kind of unsheaths, the goblins freak the hell out.
Yeah, even the Goblin King like climbs back onto his throne in fear.
Yeah.
And instantly he's just like, okay, enough screwing around. Just kill these guys.
Yeah, just kill them. We are not dealing with this.
Smart villain.
Yeah.
And he's not even supposed to be smart. He's the Goblin King.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's doing intelligent, practical things.
On a technical aspect, the 46 frames per second thing?
Yeah.
Something like that. At first, it was weird for me. Yeah. Especially in the action scene when Smaug's going after Erebor. It felt like 1.5 times speed kind of thing, like.
Yeah.
But I mean, it didn't take long, honestly, for me to get used to it.
Yeah, I stopped noticing pretty quick, honestly. Yeah, exactly. Another technical aspect is the 3D. Didn't really add much.
It's not really necessary.
It was more distracting than anything. It took me out of the movie a few times.
Yeah, I remember one point in particular, you see like a cloak flail a little bit and it does the 3D thing, and I was like, really?
Yeah, I kind of get the feeling Peter Jackson didn't want to do it. And so
it's a money grab, right? Like, I mean, producers are going to want to put it in 3D no matter what because they get the extra money.
Yeah.
And I mean...
But honestly, just don't waste your money on the 3D. Yeah. It doesn't add anything.
The only plus you get is...
the cool glasses.
The cool Hobbit glasses.
Yeah, they're green and they say the Hobbit on them. So probably wrap it up.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. I loved it. Not quite as good as any of the Lord of the Rings, but those are some of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah. Kind of hard to live up to.
Best trilogy of all time. I also really liked it. You should definitely go see it. If you get the chance anytime soon, go see it.
Every single episode is going to start with a shot of my balls.
My balls?
See, that's going to go at the end of the video now. We're going to cut it and put it at the end.